The Bill of Rights guaranteed certain personal freedoms, limited the government's power, and granted some powers to the states and the public. Its 10 amendments passed into law on December 15, 1791. The additional freedoms granted by this bill were not explicit in the main body of the Constitution, such as freedom of religion, freedom of speech, a free press, and free assembly. The Bill of Rights also guaranteed the right to keep and bear arms, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, and from warrants issued without probable cause. It also required indictment by a grand jury for any capital crime, guaranteed a speedy public trial with an impartial jury, and prohibited double jeopardy. Within their communities and congregations, African American churches stimulated powerful beliefs about personal freedoms. But although these freedoms were enshrined in the Bill of Rights, the beliefs that African American churches fostered weren't based solely on constitutional rights. There was also a powerful element of spiritual and religious principles fused with those beliefs. This belief system evolved into the concept of being answerable to a higher law ordained by God, rather than any unjust laws that were born out of racial discrimination.
We expressed our desire for freedom in terms of the Judeo-Christian heritage. In Dr. King's speech, "I Have a Dream," he directly relates his dream and says that it's deeply rooted in the American dream, that all men are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, and amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The men who spearheaded the civil rights movement believed that it was not only God's desire to show that He created all men equal, but also that all men and women deserved equal opportunities in life. Their commitment to the movement arose from their Christian faith and a resolute belief in higher law. In urging people to defy certain laws, the civil rights leaders were battling a process of dehumanization. When you believe that particular groups in society are somehow less than human, you can justify all kinds of injustice and wrongdoing. The more rabid segregationists dehumanized the black population and used that viewpoint to justify repressive legislation that discriminated against them. To counter this, the black population invoked their belief in what was referred to as Imago Dei, that people were made in the image of God and therefore should not be subjected to unjust discrimination. Dr. King's beliefs were the foundation for his civil rights activism. He had been raised in a religious family, both his grandfather and father being ministers at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. Dr. King felt that whenever a man-made law was in conflict with what people considered to be the law of God or the moral law of the universe, they had an obligation to protest. Dr. King's faith had a strong foundation in the teachings of Jesus. He was particularly influenced by the exhortation to love your neighbor as yourself and to love, pray for, and bless your enemies. He believed in the philosophy of turning the other cheek, and these beliefs influenced his nonviolent approach to civil rights activism, which would later become full-blown civil disobedience.